And what we saw in the last video was that functions are able to take stuff from us, right? We have parameters that we can work with. And you can see a function right here called sum that takes two parameters, x and y. But not only can functions take values from us, we can pass values to them, but they can also pass values back to the original code. So if I run this program right here, you can see right here that it doesn't output anything. However, what we can do is we can print this right here. And when we do, you can see that it outputs a 9. Okay, so let's look at this code and think about what's happening. num1 has the value of 5, and num2 has the value of 4. Now originally, before I called print, all our code said was then sum num1 and num2. So num1, which is 5, gets passed up here, so x has the value of 5, and num2 is 4, so y takes on the value of 4. And this return command right here, what that does is it sends back to this line of code whatever happens to be right here. Now notice that we do not have these in parentheses like this, right? Return does not work that way. We don't need brackets right there. Instead, return will send back whatever this is, and so this line right here is essentially just saying 5 plus 4, which is totally fine, but we have no way of seeing what happened until we say something like print 5 plus 4. And so that's what putting print right here does. Now we don't always want to print things to the screen, right? Instead, what we can do is we can capture that value somehow. Okay, so we can say the result is equal to the sum of num1 and num2, and then we can just print result to see what's in there. So if I run this one more time, you can see it's still a 9. That's because the 5 and 4 are passed, and what gets sent back here is the sum of 5 and 4, and 5 plus 4 is 9. So result equals, this just means 9, and then we print the result to the screen. Okay, in this next example, we are getting two values from the user, the length and the width, just like we did before. And we have our function, just like before, our rectangle area function. And instead of just printing out right inside of our function, what we've done is we've modified the function so that it calculates the area and then sends the value back. Okay, so we're getting these two values from the user, and then area is equal to, well, what is it equal to? Well, we're going to call our function with the length and the width that we got from the user. So x is length, y is width. Result inside our function is just what x times y is, because of course length times width will be the area. That's our result, and then we're sending result back here. So this is really just equal to the result. And of course the result is going to be the length times the width, so that's the area, and then we'll print out the area. So if I run this, you can see, please enter the length of your rectangle. So if I enter 5 like before, and enter the width, if I enter 10, we should expect a 50, and there it is. There's our 50. Here's the last example I have for you, and in it you can see I have my Pygame loop, and we're looking for our event so we can close our window. Not only that, but we're getting our mouse position, and then we're drawing the background, and we're also drawing a circle to the window at position x, comma, y. The next thing that we're doing is we're calculating the distance from the cursor to the circle that we're drawing on the screen, the center of the circle. And that's in this line of code right here where it says distance equals, now we're just going to be rounding our answer to 2 decimal places, but this is where we're getting our answer from. It's a function called calcDistance, in other words, calculate the distance, and we're calculating the distance between two pairs of coordinates, x, y, which is where our circle is drawn, and our mouse position 0, which is the x coordinate for the mouse, and mouse position 1, which is the y coordinate of the mouse. Okay, so this function right here is going to be passing a number back that's going to be rounded to 2 decimal places. That will be stored in distance. So let's look at our calcDistance function for a moment. You can see it's up here, right here, and calcDistance is taking 4 arguments, x1, y1, x2, y2. And the result is the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. It's that distance formula, and we're returning the result. And you can see I've even included this line right here. I've documented my function where it says it returns the distance between 2 points. And this is a very reusable function. I can use this to calculate the distance between any 2 points. Whatever 2 points I pass to it, it will calculate and return the distance, as long as I pass it in this form, in this order, where x1, y1, and then x2, y2. Okay, so this is calculating the distance between the center of the circle and the position of my cursor, and it's rounding it to 2 decimal places and then putting that in distance. Distance text is getting rendered into a string, and then that's getting rendered down so that I can blit it to my screen. But instead of just blitting it right here, I'm calling a function called blit text. And you can see right here, there's blit text. Now, I could potentially have multiple surfaces that I'm working on. So all this does is it says which surface I want to blit onto, surface.blit, and then what string I want to blit, that's right here. And then xy is the coordinates where I want to blit my picture. Okay, so here's my blit text function being called. I want to put it on the window. What do I want to put on the window? My distance text. And where do I want to put it? This is going to be the x location, and this is going to be the y location. So mouse position 0, so the x coordinate of my mouse, plus 10, so 10 to the right of the cursor. And then you can see it's also 10 down below the cursor. Now, just to show you that this works, I will run this program right now. And you can see there's the distance being calculated, and it's following my cursor around and heading towards that circle. Now, let's say for some reason I wanted to blit that text in a bunch of different locations. Well, we could do that too. So for example, I could just call that function all over again. I want to put it on my window. I want to put distance text, and I don't want to just have it follow my mouse around. I want to put it right at my circle. Okay, and my circle is located at x, y. So now when I go ahead and run this, you can see that's also right at my circle, and it's the exact same value, right? I'm just showing you that you can call that function again. Now this is kind of sloppy organization. It's maybe a little bit more complicated than it needs to be, but in a future lesson, I'm going to show you how a function can call another function, and then we'll be able to clean this up quite a bit more.